Welcome back to Ultra Uncovered. I'm Russell Ditsworth, joined as always by co-host Corinne Shalvoy and longtime guest host Graham Shalvoy. Thank you both for joining today for a Fireroad episode.
Thanks for having me.
This is our house, so thanks for being here.
You're welcome. I like to play host in other people's houses. It's perfect. So today we're going to talk about, we have a Fireroad episode. We are going to talk about the Ouray 50-mile race that just happened this last weekend. It is an amazing mountain race that happens in Corinne's hometown. And so for the audience here, I would love for Graham to just give a little bit of background on this race and the race course and what is involved in completing the Ouray 50. You are also a finisher of the race.
I am. Yeah. So I ran it 4 years ago. It was when the 100 and the 50 were combined. So it had a little bit of a different atmosphere, with less people on the course, and you weren't passing so many people this year. So what it entails is 7 major climbs, with the basically second and third climb, and then the final climb being the really high altitude big ones. And then you have a number of very steep, shorter ones kind of in between those. But it starts in Flynn Park. I said it correctly, I'm sure.
Yes, you did.
I'm glad, because I would have gotten daggers otherwise.
We'll talk about why I know how to pronounce that.
Yep. Which is on the north side of town, right by the Hot Springs Pool, if anybody's familiar. And then you run from there up Campbird Road, which is a dirt road that goes out of town. That's on the Imogene and Hard Rock course. And then you start doing kind of these climbs, and they're all pretty much out and backs, and they create kind of a spider web. And then the second half of the course continually comes back to Flynn Park as the main aid station. So you return to it, I think, 4 times, and then you finish in the park as well.
Awesome. Well, I want to start with Corinne. I want to hear why you decided to do this race. And then if you could go right into maybe what were your key mindset pieces going into this race for the Ouray 50?
Sure. So just to add a little bit to the overview, the 50-mile course is about 53 miles. It's got around 21,000 feet of climbing in it. And so the Ouray 100 was created to arguably be harder than the Hard Rock course, which is also in the San Juans. The 100-miler has 44,000 feet of climbing. So the 50 here has 21,000 feet. And just to give people perspective, Hard Rock 100 has about 33,000 feet of gain and 33,000 feet of descent. So 53 miles, 21,000 feet. What is that in meters? 10,000 meters? No. 18,000? 18?
No, maybe
like
7 or 8.
7,500. 8. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I meant not 10 or 8. So yeah, 7,500 meters of climbing or so over 53 miles. And like Graham said, it's a lot of out and backs. The Ouray area, like right in the valley of Ouray, offers so many really cool trails that this is like, I've called it like a greatest hits of Ouray County, because these are like day hikes or runs that you would just do individually, and they'd be like a big day. And then you go kind of link them all together, and it just makes for an extremely hard course that Charles, what's his last name? Charles Johnston created the course. He's not from the area. He's from Texas originally, but now lives in like the Montrose area. And he created it just to be something extremely hard for people to try and go attempt. And that was kind of the overarching goal. So the reason I decided to do it, it's been on my mind since Graham raced it. I had a really amazing time pacing him. We've had experiences that have not been so awesome pacing one another. But this was one where I kind of helped pace him to this win. We were getting chased all day. We were on the trails, that I introduced him to, that I grew up on, like that he has learned to love. And it was just a really, really fun experience doing it together. So I always had in the back of my mind that I kind of wanted to do it myself. Most years I have not been able to do it because one of us has been lining up for Run Rabbit Run, which is typically on the same weekend. Now that they separated, the 100 is in July, a week after Hard Rock, and now the 50 is in September. And it usually falls on the same weekend as Run Rabbit Run. So when Graham decided he was not going to do that this year, it opened up the opportunity for me to be able to jump in. And I did not complete Cascade Crest 100 July 17th, which was originally on my calendar. So I had been building fitness for like a 100-mile race, and I thought it was probably going to work out timing wise. It's really easy to just drive down there and stay with my parents. And it was, it's just something that I've always kind of wanted to do. And it just seemed like the right year to do it.
Awesome. And so then continuing on to your mindset, once you had decided to do this race, obviously it's your hometown. I have written down, this is home, I can, positivity. I mean, expand on some of your mindset going into the race this year.
Sure. So when I decided that I wanted to line up for it, I knew that I needed to start doing some serious vert. And I kind of reverted back to the same kind of training I did for CCC in 2022, which was going to some of the steeper terrain around this area. So Heiser Trail down in the Springs, Chautauqua over by Palmer Park, inclines, our mini incline, and like the Bar Trail area, and just finding some very steep, long-ish climbs to start to build the climbing legs, and to work on practicing with poles. So I guess my biggest training was I went and did a Heiser 3-peat, which I've done before. Actually did 4 of that. I did a 4-peat on Heiser, which was about 6,500, 7,000 feet of climbing in an 18-mile run. And I think that's just really good training for the type of terrain you're going to encounter in Ouray. I knew from pacing Graham, we're going to be hiking all of these uphills. Like, they're too steep to do anything else. And so I just better get really practice at hiking. Mindset wise, like, I'm not going to lie, like, this is a daunting race. On the website, it is advertised as a 50-miler that's harder than your last 100-miler.
Well, for example, what was your javelina?
Oh, we're going to talk. He's got that we're going to talk about that. He's got that on the docket. But I knew, like, let's put it this way. I've done Bridge of Heaven alone, which is the final climb. I've done it by itself, a 10-mile run. And I think it is when my quads were the most sore ever in my entire life. Like, I think it's maybe the only time, and I tried to run it fast downhill, but that I've literally felt like my quads have been blown, and they were sore for weeks, and they were just gone. And that was one of the 7 climbs of this race. So mindset wise, like, I knew this is going to be really, really, really hard. So I tried to create goals that were going to align to, what if I have a really tough day? One of my goals was just to finish this race. I didn't know exactly what time I'd be able to run, but I thought I might have a shot at trying to go after the record. So that was one goal. And then to win the race, kind of honoring home trails was another goal. But mindset wise, I had a few things. I wrote down, this is hard. It's supposed to be hard, was one of them. You are smart and you know how to problem solve was another one. You're a tough mofo was another one. So I think I needed to channel the tough mofo mindset, because at some point it's going to be very hard. And then I think your friends and family are all behind you. And so thinking about just the support group I have, the athletes I coach, the Castle Rock Run Club, everybody cheering me on from afar, like trying to bring that support in with me on race day was also important.
Well, that's amazing. And Graham alluded to it. I'm not going to bury the lead anymore. You had an amazing performance. You ran 15 hours, 22 minutes, 22 seconds for first place. You were 3rd overall in the race, and you were 2 minutes off of Emily Caldwell's 2022 course record. So basically ran the exact same race. Now, Graham alluded to the fact that you also ran Javelina last year in 15 hours and 24 minutes.
For 100 miles.
2 minutes different.
And twice the distance.
Twice the distance. So is it as hard as your last 100? Maybe it is as hard as your last 100.
Yeah, and you saw some stuff on people having run both the Ouray 50 and Javelina, and their times being quite similar, right?
They're all very close. When I did the Ouray 50, and then later that year was attempting my first Javelina 100. So I was looking at people, and then I noticed there were some people also who had run the Ouray 50, and I was like, whoa, their times are almost identical. I mean, they're very close. A lot of people.
So like if you ran 18 hours at Ouray 50, they probably ran around 18 hours at Javelina.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So that's what Bert will do in altitude.
Well, that's amazing. I know that you've had kind of a journey with your own perception about your climbing abilities. So I want to talk about, how do you think that this performance has transformed your perception of your climbing abilities?
I think I'm okay when you can use poles. If it's runnable uphill, I think I still have work to do on building that skill set. But I think that if it is a kind of this, what's the word, like, not maniacal, just like this, not mechanical. It's an M word.
Methodical?
Yeah, this methodical, one step after the other, and kind of almost getting into this rhythm of just like stair stepper type motion and like continuing to go. And I do think that my heart rate and my effort level, I guess, I didn't wear my armband, but according to my Strava, like I was a lot in a zone 2 on a zone 5 model. And so I think maybe I've learned that I can just kind of do that effort, even if it's a steep uphill, for a very long amount of time without getting too fatigued. And then I have a lot of faith in my downhill abilities and in the strength of my downhill, like eccentric loading. And so I think whether it's just perception or not, like something allowed me to kind of hold on to that through all the descents here too.
Yeah, I think some people think that they're good at downhills when they're really good at like Camp Bird Road downhills.
There's a lot of different types of downhills. Yeah.
Yeah, there's steep downhills, and you are good at steep downhills.
Yeah, steep, rocky, technical, navigating, but that's like, it's like the most fun part for me.
Yeah. Okay, so 2021, Graham, you ran 14:28 for the win. Corinne paced you for the last half of that race. Something that I loved seeing you build up to pacing this year is that I noticed multiple times on Strava, the commentary was, I'm getting ready for pacing. So, I mean, it seemed like almost like you treated this pacing effort, 28 miles, 12,000 feet of vert, like your own race. Like, talk about that and what your thought process was behind that.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that I'm glad that I had raced it before, because if you don't know what you're getting into, well, you could get in over your head real quick, even pacing. Like the first climb, I mean, the first 3 miles of my pacing was 3,500 feet up. So it's Twin Peaks, it's the steepest thing on the course. So if you don't know that's coming, oh boy. So yeah, there was a number of times I went down to Chautauqua and I did multiple laps, which is like a 1,100 foot mile. So that was really helpful. And did some uphill treadmill. I did just some things to kind of get my quads ready. Although in that last descent, my quads were done. Like, they were on fire. And she was trying to run fast to get the course record. And I ended up having a rock in my shoe and had to stop for 30 seconds. And I could see her headlamp in front of me. And after about a mile, it was getting no closer. I'm like, no, I'm not even going to try. She's just going to go. So yeah, but I was really glad that I did some training, got my legs ready for it, and even still, they were pretty sore for 3 days afterwards.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about maybe it's a race where it's better to have 2 pacers if it's not intended to be like a really like super compensation stimulus for the pacer.
Yeah.
I was also, when I paced him, in pretty dang good shape because I was getting ready for CCC. So it was like, no, for Leadville. And so I was building for 100 milers. So this was also kind of part of the training plan. But I remember very early on in my pacing job thinking I might get dropped during this because this is really hard. And I don't know if I can keep up with Graham, and he's in race mode and he's moving quickly. And so it's definitely something like you have to prepare for as a pacer.
Well, and just think about that. You've each paced each other to wins at Ouray 50. That's a pretty special thing. Like when you think about that, like, are there things about the pacing that you were trying to do on the day, or like obviously you weren't thinking about the result then, but like what kinds of things are you thinking about trying to do on the day?
Well, I mean, obviously I've been married for a long time, and I know kind of what gets her motivated and sometimes fired up. So I had a couple of comments. Someone had mentioned the day before the race that they didn't know that Corinne was like a really big mountain race person. They were more flat fast. And so we were in a particularly hard section. and I knew she was getting kind of tired. And so I told her about that comment, knowing that it would probably light the fire a little bit. And then on the way up in the final climb, I was trying to kind of talk her through how much time we had for her to get to the top and turn around and try to get the course record. So we were talking about that, and then I kind of we got to the top, and there was like an hour and 6 minutes?
107.
107 to get from the top to the bottom, 5 miles with 5,000 feet of descent. And I kind of was honest with her. I'm like, I don't know if this is possible. I am happy to try, but I just want you to know that I don't want you to go kill yourself to try to get this if it's not possible. So, a little bit of trying to fire her up, and then a little bit of reality at the end. So she knew what was coming.
But it was very clear-cut reality. Like, it wasn't, so I had almost removed the thought in my mind that the record was even possible a couple of climbs before that, because I felt like I was off pace for it. I used Ultra Pacer, which is an amazing tool to create my splits, but I also knew that they were pretty aggressive at the end because we know how long the Bridge of Heaven climb takes, and to do it in 3 hours on fresh legs is pretty solid. And my pacing chart had me doing it in 3 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes at the end of this race. And I knew that was probably not going to happen. So I was trying to buffer time, which I had been doing. I was ahead of pace for a while, and then I kind of started to get right on it. And when we started Bridge of Heaven, he was like, if we can get to the top at 2 o'clock.
2 a.m.
2 a.m. If you can get to the top at 2 a.m., you have an hour, you have 12-minute miles to run an hour, and then you have a 20-minute buffer. And the thing about Bridge of Heaven is it just goes on forever.
Especially in the dark.
Forever. And it has these false summits. You get to this meadow, and that is literally the Bridge of Heaven. You can see it if you're standing in the park in Ouray and you look up, you see this grassy meadow way up top, and that is literally the bridge. And that point, there is a sign that when I was with him, we got to this sign.
Which he was pacing me.
When I was pacing him. And I looked at it, and I thought we were getting close to the top, and it says you have 2 miles to go. 2 miles.
From that sign.
2 miles from that sign, and these are 800-plus foot miles.
Yeah.
So it just went on forever, and I didn't even look at my watch. I knew that 2 a.m. had come and gone, and it was like, well, how far over 2 a.m. are we going to be? So at that point, I'm just trying to go as quick as I can, move as well as I can. And I mean, I think I was moving pretty well.
You were.
But I was running like 22, 23-minute miles, versus I needed to maybe be running 20-minute miles to keep the buffer.
Well, and it got cold.
It got cold.
And then a mile from the summit, it got snow covered.
Yep.
Which, just a little bit of added challenge. So, it was a little more challenging than I think we expected because of the conditions.
Yeah. And then we got to the top, and you have to punch your bib. Pull punch, and that's when you said, and I think you said it to me in a way that was not discouraging, but was realistic. It was reality. You said, "Babe, I'd never BS you. You have an hour and 7 minutes to get down," and so that was good. It was just information, and it was like it might be possible, it might not, but this is what you have to deal with. You have an hour and 7 minutes. And I honestly was like, at that point, I didn't necessarily think I was going to get it anyway. So I'm like, well, what the hell? I'm just going to give it everything I possibly can and enjoy it. And so then, I write about it in my Substack, but I start running, and Graham says, I'm going to stop and take a rock out of my shoe. And I kind of wish he hadn't, because it would have been a lot of fun to run the whole thing down with him.
That rock was needing to get out of that shoe. There's no way I was running downhill fast with that little... Felt like a little diamond in there.
I get it. But the thing is, you can't take that time because you're not going to get it.
You're right. I knew that was possible.
So then I start kind of hauling as fast as I can. And I see that the first mile is like a 10:57. And I'm like, yes, I'm doing this. I bought myself an extra minute. And then the next mile is just over 11 or something like that, but it was still way under 12. And I was like, yes, this is happening. And then I forgot that the next mile is the rockiest, most technical, challenging.
It's also the steepest part.
Steep, switchbacky, big boulders, shale and loose rock sections that are have a lot of exposure and are narrow and just held up by rebar, and you just do not want to run across them super fast, because if you take one wrong step, you're going down a couple thousand feet.
Yeah.
And so that mile
It's also dark.
It's dark.
And a little bit overgrown.
Yeah. And I was really worried my headlamp was also going to die at some point, which it didn't. I mean, I had a second one on, but I didn't know how much time. I was thinking to myself, what if my headlamp goes? What am I going to do? I'm going to whip out my phone and use my phone light for the rest of this, because I have no other option. I'm not stopping to change a battery. So I was trying to play out those scenarios in my mind. But yeah, so that mile, looked down and it was like a 1350. And I'm like, crap. Just gave back all the time that I saved. And my feet were starting to hurt. I was starting to jam my toes into the front of my shoes, and like, it was just a little bit miserable. And then I was also thinking about Graham, and I was like, I hope he's okay back there. Does he want me to keep going? I don't know shouldn't I just stop and run with him? Because that's way more important than any race scenario is actually enjoying the time with him. And you were worried about me.
Yeah.
Like, we were both worried about each other.
Yeah.
He would have wanted you to keep going.
She even at one point yelled, because I wasn't that far behind.
Yeah.
And I could still see her pretty much the whole time. So that made me,
made you feel good. She doesn't know that.
But she yelled at one point. I don't know what she said.
I was like, babe, is everything okay? Because I just wanted to make sure he hadn't fallen or something. And then you just said, keep going. Keep going.
Keep going.
Just keep going.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So then I don't know if you want me to tell the rest of the end here, but.
Well, this is a great spot. I mean, I do want you to tell the rest of the end, but I also want to mention, again, you mentioned your Substack, Women Can Substack. Go read right now, You Rage 50, a great write-up and story about the race and about what your hometown means to you. One of my favorite quotes out of that whole thing was, and I'm going to paraphrase here, Ouray 50 is not a Hard Rock qualifier. It's not a UTMB qualifier. It's not a Western States qualifier. It's not a stepping stone. It is a mountain race built to be brutal in your hometown. And I love that. So if you're listening to this and you want to hear a great firsthand account, but yeah, tell the rest of the story about, seeing your family and then coming into the finish.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for highlighting it. I put it out on the Women Can Substack so that, that's, a side project that I have going on, but I also, I don't know. I think hopefully, like, my goal was to also share a little bit about the race and what you can expect, and in hopes that people will check it out and maybe go, even if they're not going to go run the race, like, go hike these trails or visit this area, because it is some of the most beautiful country, like, in this entire country. So I would highly recommend, especially if you've lived in Colorado your whole life and not been to Ouray.
I haven't lived here my whole life, but I've lived here for over 25 years and I've never been to Ouray.
You gotta go. All right, so the end of the race, right? So I knew that I was basically on the bubble there of hitting the record. And I was kind of playing games in my own mind of like, I'm okay with it if I don't get it. It'd be really nice to get it. I do want to get it. It's all right if I don't. Everything's going to be fine either way. I'm still winning the race, which was one of the goals. I'm still running a really good time. I'm finishing strong, all that stuff. So I have that 14-minute mile. And then I'm trying to figure out how much mileage is left, because I'm like, this always feels long. Like, maybe it's a little more than 5 miles. Is it 4.5? Is it 5? Is it 5 all the way back to the park? Is it 5 just to the bottom? And then I have to run back to the park, which is another quarter to a half a mile. Yeah. So I'm kind of trying to figure out the math in my head. I run the next mile and I think it was like right around a 12-minute. And so I'm like, well, I'm kind of back on the bubble there. And then I actually got to the bottom before I thought I was going to. So I was preparing for it to be longer. And then I saw the metal sign where you sign in and register for the hike. Okay. Which is like 100 yards up from the trailhead.
So you know exactly.
So I knew I was there. So I saw that and I was like, oh God, we gotta go. And I look at my watch and I think it was like 2:18. And I'm like, I have 2 minutes. Like, I basically I don't know exactly how far it is, but I literally, when I hit the road, I've got a haul. So I hit the road and I'm just running all out as hard as I possibly can. Who knows? It was probably like 8-minute pace, but I was running as hard as I possibly could. And I'm like, I'm just going to try. So I get on the road around the corner. There's the top of the hot springs, and there's a sign for the visitor center. And right by the visitor center sign, my dad's standing there. I didn't know it was him, but there was a guy standing there with a headlamp. And I pass him, and I see that it's my dad. And I'm like, Dad. And he's like, Corey. And he's like, where's your husband? And I'm like, he's back there.
He's lollyjogging.
He's back. He's fine. He's fine.
I'm like, I gotta go try to get the record. So he has a cowbell, which I think was to let everybody else know I was coming. So he starts ringing the cowbell. He starts following me. I have to go down a set of stairs, which is really annoying. Right by the fish pond, which I didn't really write about this, but that fish pond is pretty iconic. It's adjacent to the pool, and I mean, we used to catch crawdads in that thing. I've fallen head first into that fish pond many times. I've pushed people into the fish pond. I've dared people to jump in the fish pond. There are now like tortoises that live there, and they have their own little island that's called like Turtle Island. If you just go feed the fish. Like
nice.
We took the boys to go feed the fish when they were little. I used to always take bread down there. It's right on the edge of the park. So then I cross the pack, I get on the track, I come around the corner, and then I look for the two. So Ouray 50 does not have a finish line, no finish arch, no inflatables, no advertising, no logos whatsoever, right?
Zero frills.
Zero frills. And this is on all their merch. There are two orange cones. Just like, I don't know, 10 yards, 10 feet apart from each other, two orange cones. And that is the finish line. So you have to run through that. On the grass, and so I just bolted for it and collapsed across it, and the whole family was there. Everybody was awake still. Dash, Stell, my mom, my sister.
And this is at 3:22 in the morning.
3:22. I looked down at my watch. 3:22. I knew that I had missed it, like right around the fish pond, I think, because I was at 3:20, and I was like, there it goes.
And in the park, like you hear all the cheers and stuff. And I'm just getting down off the climb when I hear the cheers, and I look down, I'm like, 3:22.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Just missed it.
Yeah, but I honestly wasn't disappointed.
Yeah, finishing with run in you, right? Like there's something about that. Finishing an ultra with run in you has this special meaning. And, we've all walked across finish lines. At least I have. And when you run across and you have run in you, there is just a satisfaction that you've done what you wanted to do on that day.
You've gotten everything out of you. I think that's what I told myself, is like, well, I can't say I didn't give it everything I possibly had. And then you start going back to, should I change shoes? Should I have waited this long? Where are those 2 minutes on the course? And then, of course, the race director says, well, you just have to come back next year. And then I said, no.
I said, no, I'm good. Well, all right. So what do you take away from your day that you'll bring to future mountain races? And the big question that I have is this: does this motivate you more than ever, your desire to run the Hard Rock 100 someday?
I think it makes me feel a little bit more capable of actually doing Hard Rock than I was before I did this race. Because there's a lot of similarities in the terrain, in the pace at which you're going to be moving, things like that. So I think it was absolutely a huge confidence boost in thinking like, okay, I know how hard Rock is, but like, it's not so much of a stretch that it's something I think, that I can't accomplish. So it definitely helped with that. I think one thing I'll take away from it is that if I ever become a race director, I want to be like Charles and give more money to the female winner than the male winner of the race, because that's something he does that is very unique. I love that. You make $125 more than the male winner. So $625 for the female and $500 for the male. And part of me thought like, that's kind of unfair to the guy. And then my dad was like, he's just trying to make up for the decades of inequity that have happened in this world. So it's like, okay, when you phrase it that way. But yeah, no, I think that I will be a little bit less hesitant to think about doing real mountainous races. And I think I learned that I can take care of myself in the cold as well.
That is a great point. Run Rabbit Run was the exact same weekend. Run Rabbit Run's broken into the tortoises and the hares. The hares had a tough day.
Yeah.
The hares had over 50% DNF rate.
Yeah.
A lot of people succumb to not really being prepared in winter conditions. So talk about what you did and like how you have confidence in your abilities in that kind of environment.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I am not an expert. Graham's probably more of an expert on this than me, being in the mountains as much as he has been. But I'll say that I brought so many layers and so many options. And like, I'm lucky that I have this stuff. But for example, I didn't have a waist lamp. I borrowed one from somebody. Like, even if you don't have this stuff, you probably have friends that have it. So my goal was to bring everything I could for various scenarios that would happen. So I literally had like 7 rain jackets. And my thought was, there are varying degrees of waterproofness and weight. So some are warm, some are not. But also, if it's raining the entire race, I can change one at every single aid station and have like a dry one on, which I have heard people, we learned that from Tom Evans and Ruth Croft. They're changing into dry clothes every time. I had multiple merino layers, long sleeves for under the jackets. I had multiple pairs of gloves, some waterproof, some warm, some that would work with and I wore like those cheesy little, I think they're Strava branded, those little gloves that you get for free at places. I wore those under my Lucky gloves for the last climb. And those were the perfect weight. But I put the waterproof shells over my gloves when I was coming down Hayden, when I wasn't using my poles, and they probably saved me from, getting too cold up there. So I think a lot of options, and then not being afraid to use them and just get them out. I mean, carrying something with you at all times, because like we learned, these storms come in 5 minutes and the temperature drops 30 degrees. It's like, you better have something on you that you can throw on. And the second that it started raining, the second it started hailing, the second it got windy, I put a jacket on. Because the last thing you want to do is get to a point of being too cold that you can't even get it out of your pack and put it on. That's something I learned from CCC, and actually reading one of Kelly Wolf's old blogs where she said, I couldn't use my hands to get my jacket out. I couldn't use my hands to eat. And so from here on out, like, the moment it starts to get gnarly, I'm putting gloves on.
Well, it's kind of unpredictable too, because like, you came into Crystal Lake, which is mile 15.
Oh, this is a great example of this. Yeah.
And you would come up and over Hayden, which I think goes up to almost 12,000 feet. And it's very exposed, very high. So if you get weather there, there's no place to hide from it. So you had a jacket, and you put it on, and we're fine. We came down to Crystal Lake, and the sky had cleared. It was getting nice again. And you asked, you're like, is it going to rain or snow anymore? I'm like, the forecast says 0%. I was like, so I don't think so, but you should probably, continue to have a jacket with you, which we almost let you get.
I ran out of the aid station, and I was like, Graham, is there a jacket in this pack? And you're like, no, I gotta get a jacket. So you ran back and got my Solomon waterproof jacket. And ran after me and then tucked it in there.
Which is good, because for a 0% chance, you got an absolute blizzard on that climb.
Then 40 minutes later, that was the biggest storm of the whole thing. It was sideways wind, snow. Our friend Tyler Herman took a video during that section. Yes. And people were just, there were a lot of people that were coming the other way on it, and they were covered up and stuff, but you could tell everybody's miserable. It's just like, it's like, you're in the middle of a snowstorm on the side of the mountain and you're climbing. So yeah, I think those are the biggest things I learned. And then, like, you just can't get too prideful to take the time to stop and do something that is going to save your race later. Like, it's really easy to be like, I'm okay, my hands are okay. And then 10 minutes later, for them to be so cold that you can't get them back. And then, like, you're scrambling. So even though you can get in that competitive mindset of like, I just don't want to spend the time, it's like, you really have to, or else it can be serious consequences.
I don't want to spend the time, or I don't want to carry the weight.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. I don't need it for this section because I don't need it. It's the Rockies, right?
Run Rabbit Run is a perfect example of what can happen if
And it's easy to
don't
happen to
expect it.
anyone.
It
It
is.
almost happened to you. You almost left without a jacket.
It almost
Yeah.
happened to me.
Yeah.
It almost happened to me. My hands got really cold at the top of Hayden, and I was still using my poles. And I didn't want to, in the middle of the storm, take out my gloves and put them under my Lucky gloves so that, that's like a lot of work to do. And so I had to just do this mental math of like, well, if they get too cold before I put my poles away, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to like tuck them down my pants. I'm going to put them against my stomach. Like you got to think about like all these things that you can do because it can just change so quickly. And I think that like they weigh something, but the technology that exists today, a lot of these jackets do not weigh a lot for the payoff that you get in the protection.
Yep.
And put your hood up. If you have a jacket that has a hood, it's got a hood on it for a reason. Like your head getting cold, just like when your head gets hot, it's like not a good thing. So use all of that. Like have a brim, use the hood, cinch it up. Keeping your neck and your head warm is also really important. So I think just like you just got to do that stuff.
Yeah. If it's worth it for you, it's worth it for everybody else. People have a competitive mindset. They want to carry the least amount possible. Everybody wants to do that for their own competitive benefit. But in the mountains, you just can't mess around with this stuff. And we've spent too much time and energy training and getting ourselves fit enough to do these things that it is not worth having a logistical error, drive us down and not, keep us from experiencing what you can from your fitness.
Right. I will say too, I did not wear any pants or tights. I had waterproof pants, but I never put them on. And I think that like that's a personal preference. I actually was worried that everybody else was like, aren't your legs getting cold? I had kind of tall Injinji socks, and then I had kind of like half tight shorts that went down pretty far. But I think the downside of if you have your legs fully covered is that if it's too wet, they can also get heavy and they can stay wet. So it's like a personal preference, but I just think like the upper layers and the core stuff is really important.
I agree. Yep.
Cool. Graham, I got a question for you. What impressed you about Corinne's performance?
Probably her attitude. I think coming up over Hayden the first time and coming to Crystal Lake, she had a really great attitude. She was smiling, even though she'd come through some bad weather and it was not, great. And then attitude at the next aid station after going through a blizzard and then coming down. She just kept a good attitude when, you very easily could have gone in this really sucks. Not only is it hard, but the weather is terrible. But she didn't. She didn't complain about it at all. And I think that attitude helped her kind of stay with it all day.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember watching the little film that's on the Ouray 100 site beforehand, and there's a volunteer in there who says, here's what you need to be able to complete the Ouray 50. And one thing he said is that you cannot let these climbs break you down mentally over the course of the day. He's like, don't let it break you down. And I thought about that while I was out there. I'm like, I'm gonna embrace it, versus being threatened by it, the challenge. And so like when it was hailing, I was like saying out loud, like, Mother Nature's pretty cool. Look at these little tiny snowballs on the ground. It's not pelting that hard. And like, it looks really pretty. And that's a really cool phenomenon that the weather can do that. Like I was trying to almost like be friends with the weather and the terrain.
Yeah. Well, I remember you did maybe one night run with all your checks of lights and things like that. Like
a 3-mile night run.
Were you nervous about night run? A lot of this race was at night.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
How did that feel once it got dark? Or were you just so focused on the climbs and the course and all those things? Talk about night.
I was worried about it, and it's harder to move fast at night. And even the practice run we did on Ridgeline, it's like minute per mile pace, like 30 to 60 seconds a mile slower because you just can't see the trail as well. So I was a little worried about it. It helped a huge amount to have Graham with me. Like having somebody with you. If I had been by myself, I think it's one thing that makes Run Rabbit hard. You're by yourself. And if you're not running with people, you're by yourself in the night. And one difference is I know this area. I don't know the Steamboat area as well. And so it's a little scarier to think about like animals.
A place that doesn't feel familiar.
Yeah. But it went well, and I actually ended up only using a headlamp, no waist lamp, only just because I forgot it one time. And we did have a little snafu. We had to switch battery, or we had to switch lights.
Yeah, which is
One of
weird.
our headlamps went out way quicker than expected.
Yeah, charged all of them like the week before, and then we went out, and her headlamp
Tested it.
lasted 3 hours, and then it was blinking. We're like, "What is going on?" And luckily, she had a second one with her that we were able to kind of put on and get taken care of. But yeah, glad we had a second one.
And then what time of day did you start pacing? Was it night yet?
No, it's like 6:30.
6:30, so it was getting dark, especially there with the big mountains.
So we took headlamps.
So we had the headlamps with us, but we had an hour of
As my Uncle Rick, who was there, said, Corinne, you have an hour and 30 minutes of whatever daylight, of civil daylight.
Yeah.
Civil twilight.
Before civil twilight. And in the trees on old Twin Peaks, it got real dark. And then we came out of the trees and it was still a little bit light. So we were like, when should we put our headlamps on and when should we not? But yeah, most of it with him was in the dark.
Yep.
Okay, out and back nature on these things. You saw other racers a lot.
Yeah.
Like, talk about that experience. Did you see the same people over and over again? Like, are you like building camaraderie with the rest of the racers out there?
Totally building camaraderie. The first climb of Weehawken and back down, I saw everybody.
Okay.
Right. I saw all the way to the back of the pack. And then you see fewer and fewer people as you go. But then I was in the 8th station with Melissa Sorensen at the same time. I saw her as I was leaving and she says, oh my God, are you going to Chief Ouray? And I said, yeah. And she's like, oh my God, you're so fast, because she was just getting ready to go to Twin Peaks, which is the climb before that. And then we came down Twin Peaks because you go do the Silver Shields out and back section, and then you come down the old Twin Peaks trail, which is hilarious because a 19-minute mile is fast.
Downhill.
Downhill 19-minute mile.
I mean, that's one where you almost have to use poles on the downhill. Yeah. Which is
It's gnarly. So we're going down that, and people are coming up it, and they still have to go do Twin Peaks, come down and do Silver Shield. And so they're like 10 miles behind. And it was just like, I was just like, God, you guys are so tough.
So what is the overall cutoff for Ouray 50?
24 hours.
24.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did it in 15 hours. So some people conceivably were out there for an additional 9 hours.
Melissa
almost.
was DFL.
Okay.
She came in 15 minutes before the cutoff.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And she got a big old plaque as she shared. She came in wearing a tutu and with her free trail badge on. So happy.
I think I saw a picture, a podium picture.
Yeah.
She's on the podium. Okay, great. I love it. Yeah. DFL should be on the podium.
Yeah, because we have friends who didn't, there were a lot of, this race has usually more than 50% drop rate.
Yeah, a lot of people dropping this race.
Yeah, my coworker Ben unfortunately did have to drop, but I saw him in the elevator.
I think Tyler Herman from Castle Run dropped too.
Yeah.
Or got timed out.
I saw him in the elevator and he goes, I had to drop, but Corinne crushed it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, the winning time for the guys was about 15 minutes faster than Graham's this year. 10 minutes faster. And what did he tell you?
He used my splits.
Yeah.
I thought he and I were kind of matched well, and so he used my splits to figure out kind of what he wanted to do. So it was cool to meet him.
That's awesome. Okay.
And like winner of the guys was like 20 something, and the second place was like early 40s.
I think he was like 49.
49. I'm 43, and second place female was 24.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which is really cool.
One other statistics thing: 21,000 feet in a single day. Is that your PR for vertical gain in a day?
CCC has 20,000, but I don't think it's 21. So I'd probably in a day. Yeah. I mean, over the week we Everest did 1 week, but in a day, I think it is a PR. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My last big question, Graham, you mentioned Corinne really stayed positive, especially when it got hard. So Corinne, what is it that you were thinking about when it did get really hard?
I think that I don't know, at least for me, I took a lot from listening to Tom Evans talk about giving himself kudos and props for doing things.
Yeah.
And this microdosing of complimenting, you're almost conditioning yourself within the race with this self promotion of I am doing a good job. So I think that I was trying to be just kind of like kind to myself. My legs are getting tired. No shit, you just did 10,000 feet of climbing. Like that is normal, and that is perfectly acceptable. And therefore, let's talk about, wow, my legs are still moving well after 10,000 feet of climbing. Like that's the positive side of it. So like really trying to just like build whatever is going on circumstantially. Like I didn't get super cold during that storm. Good job. Like
you added a mantra during the race, and you said it a bunch of times on Chief Ouray and on Bridge of Heaven, which was, this is hard, but it's not nearly as hard as Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I mean, constantly saying, because Twin Peaks is so steep. And it's
this is after you've done Twin Peaks.
I was almost grateful for the Twin Peaks climb, because it changed my perception of all the climbs after it.
Nice.
I was like, this is not as hard as Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Which was kind of an interesting thing. But I think you also have to like, you got to really want to do this stuff. Like if you don't have this, and even if you know it's going to be hard, if you don't have this innate want to do it and to like go for that challenge and embrace it head on, like that is where it starts before the race even happens.
Yeah.
And there have been races that I don't know if I wanted to do it. And in the middle of the race, it becomes pretty evident that you don't want to.
Right.
And so like, I knew I wanted to complete this thing for myself. And that was kind of the baseline that everything else grew off of.
Yeah, you're able to like kind of anchor your thoughts on like, I have this baseline desire to be out here and to do this.
Yes.
And anything it throws out at me, I'm going to take with grace. Amazing. Graham, any final words about the Ouray 50 and your pacing and just, you guys have, like I said, like parallel wins, parallel pacing. I love it.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I felt like a definite, there was a definite almost level of responsibility I felt like I had. Like when I got done with Twin Peaks Silver Shield, I was like, Christ, I don't want to do another 2 climbs. This is hard as hell. But like I felt a level of responsibility because Corinne was with me when I won, and I wanted to kind of produce hopefully the same result with her and kind of help her get there. And I think that level of motivation really helped me kind of stay in the game. And then it was funny because like my boys were asking me like, wow, you couldn't keep up with mom on the final downhill. I'm like, yeah, you're right, I couldn't. I was like, the whole goal of this was to get her to the top of Bridge of Heaven. And then once that happened, I felt like my job was over, and I didn't feel like I needed to go rip that downhill, so I just let her go. So my job was done.
The stats up there,
right?
107. Do with that what you may.
I'll see you later. So no, I mean it was good, but the level of responsibility I felt like of making sure I returned the favor and put her in the best position possible to kind of do what she wanted to do on the day. I felt great about it.
Yeah, and Corinne, last thoughts of like, you've finished some ultras where it's like, man, maybe I shouldn't have finished that race. But like, each time you do one of these things, it's an amazing piece of, yes, I can do hard things. I can do these amazing things. It's just another kind of feather in the cap. So kind of what are you thinking as you've reflected on this for a few days past the finish?
I'm thinking it's going to be a really interesting experiment to do that and now try to run fast at Javelina 100K.
Right.
And that's going to be a really like interesting just self-experiment of like, what is that stimulus going to do? And how will I adapt to it? And will it help me? And will I be able to run fast in a few weeks? So I think that's one thing that's kind of interesting. And then, I don't know. I just think we need to have a Castle Rock Run Club San Juan training camp so that I can show everybody in our whole group these trails because I think everybody should see them.
Maybe take some of these climbs one day at a time.
Totally.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love it. Well, and I say smooth is fast, but speed is strength and strength is speed.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I think that the mountain climbing will lead great into strength for flat fast.
All right. Well, we will see. But everyone should check out the Ouray 50. There's a really good movie. Anthony Lee paces a Japanese runner to 4th place one year in the 100 miler, which still no interest in doing the 100-miler whatsoever. That thing, holy moly. I thought to myself, all right, well, what if I was doing this climb and I had another 40 miles on my legs beyond that? Like, just mind-boggling. So shout out to people like Sarah Suzuki and Teddy Bross, who crushed the 100-miler.
Teddy broke the course record this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Sarah broke her own course record.
Amazing.
So, but yeah, everyone should go visit Southwest Colorado. And there are awesome race directors like Charles Johnston out there who are just making these events happen for the love of the sport and the love of like honoring the nature that's around us. And that's really cool.
Amazing. Well, thanks a bunch, and keep listening out for us. We've got more stuff coming up on Ultra Uncovered. Really happy to have Graham join. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, 51